Have you ever, really looked at a concrete wall and wondered where the color comes from or like how the paint on a sign stays bright for
Oh,
so
that's
long?
even the color in the clothes you're wearing.
Exactly. There's this whole sort of hidden industry behind it all. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into the global market for inorganic color pigments.
Yeah, we've got this really interesting market report here, and it explains that these pigments, essentially they're chemical compounds derived from inorganic metals, salts,
Hmm.
sometimes found naturally, sometimes manufactured. And the big thing about them is they're tough. They stand up to weather, resist chemicals, that sort of thing.
So durability is a big piece of this, not just the color itself. Got it.
Yeah.
All right, let's unpack this then. What's the kind of the main goal for us today? What should you walk away understanding?
Well, our mission really is to pull out the most important bits from this report for you. We want to look at, how big the market is right now, where it's heading in terms of growth, who the key companies are, and what trends are shaping things. Basically, a shortcut to understanding this surprisingly significant market.
Okay, significant. Give us a sense of the scale then. What are we talking about for, say, 2025?
The report puts the global market value at USD 6,340 million for 2025.
$6.3 billion. Wow, okay. That's definitely substantial. And where does it go from there? What's the growth look like?
It's projected to grow quite a bit. By
Okay.
2033, the forecast is USD 10731.471 million.
Over 10 billion.
Yeah, that works out to a CAGR, a compound annual growth rate of 6.90% starting from 2025.
6.9%. Okay, so solid, consistent growth. What's driving that? The report mentioned something about colored concrete
Yeah.
in like buildings.
That's definitely a key driver, yeah. There's this rising interest in using colored concrete for construction projects.
Right.
And it's partly the look, the aesthetics, for sure. But it's also about performance. It offers better UV resistance, and it can actually reduce heat absorption.
So real practical benefits too. Better lifespan, maybe energy efficiency.
Exactly. It's that combination of looking good and performing well.
Makes sense. Okay, so we have the global picture. How does this break down by region? Where's all this pigment going?
Right. So in 2025, North America is expected to be the biggest market. It holds over 40% of the share.
40%.
Yeah, which is about USD 1838.60 million. Though its growth rate, the CAGR from 2025 to 2033, is projected at 5.3%.
Okay, so dominant now, but maybe not the fastest growing. What about other areas?
Europe's also a major player. They've got over 30% share, around USD 2321.60 million in 2025. Then there's the Asia-Pacific region, APAC. That's about 23% of the global revenue, looking at USD 2,345.80 million for 2025.
And APAC, wasn't that the one flagged as growing the fastest?
That's the one. The report projects APAC with an 8.8% CAGR over that period, 2025 to 2033. Yeah. So definitely the one to watch for rapid growth.
8.8%, wow. Okay, any other regions of note?
Yep. South America has just over 5% share. That's USD 240.92 million, with a pretty strong CAGR too, 7.2%.
Okay.
The Middle East is around 2%, USD 253.60 million, growing at 7.4%. And Africa holds about 1%, roughly USD 139.48 million, with the slower growth projection of 3.1% CAGR.
Interesting. So North America leads currently, but the real momentum, the highest growth rate, seems to be in Asia Pacific. That's a dynamic shift.
It really is.
So beyond the colored concrete trend, what else is pushing this demand globally?
Well, the report points to a few key things. One is just the fundamental use of these pigments in, everyday stuff, printing, inks, paints, varnishes, polymers. They're just essential components.
Right, you can't really make durable colored packaging or coatings without them. What else?
There's also this increasing focus on sustainability, finding substitutes, greener options across industries. While the report doesn't detail all the substitutes, this general environmental push is definitely shaping choices.
Okay, sustainability. Makes sense.
And then, maybe simpler, but still important, just a general demand for better aesthetics. People want things to look good, whether it's consumer products or, big infrastructure projects.
Yeah, visual appeal counts for a lot these days. The report also mentioned something a bit more technical. Sulfuric acid needs in ore forming. How does that connect?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's a bit indirect. Basically, the process of getting metals out of ore often uses sulfuric acid.
Right.
And as the demand for that process grows, it boosts the market for certain inorganic compounds, which can then be used as raw materials to make pigments. So more metal extraction can kind of ripple through to support pigment production.
Huh. Shows how interconnected everything is. Are there tech advancements helping too, like in how the pigments are made?
Oh, definitely. Manufacturing innovations are crucial. The report mentions things like getting better control over particle size
Uh-huh.
and developing more modern dispersion methods. These improvements lead to better color performance, more consistency. And that's really valued, across all the applications.
So smarter manufacturing equals better pigments.
Exactly. And one last big driver, large-scale infrastructure projects.
Hmm.
All over the world, it's not just about making bridges or roads look nicer with color.
Right.
It's also about using these pigments in coatings or within the materials themselves to make them last longer, perform better, durability again.
Okay, so lots of things pushing growth, but markets always have challenges, right? What's the main headwind for inorganic pigments?
The big one highlighted is the volatility of raw material prices. We're talking about the basic ingredients like metal oxides and salts.
Ah,
When those prices jump around, it directly hits production costs and can make supply chains, well, a bit unstable.
yeah. Hard to plan if your core costs are always shifting. Does anything make that worse? Like global events?
Absolutely. The report notes that geopolitical issues, global economic changes,
Mhm.
they can really amplify those price swings. Think trade disputes, resource availability, economic slowdowns.
Yeah.
It all feeds into that unpredictability.
Right, adds another layer of complexity on the supply side. Okay, let's pivot to the future then. What are the key trends we should be watching in this market?
Well, tying back to what we mentioned earlier, sustainability is huge. There's a really strong push for eco-friendly pigment formulas.
Uh-huh.
Companies are focusing on reducing their carbon footprint, meeting tougher environmental rules.
Mm-hmm.
It's a major trend.
Is there like a specific example of that, new products coming out?
Yes, the report actually mentions one, Everwhite pigment from U.S. Silica Holdings. It's a newer high-white pigment positioned as a more sustainable option.
For coatings and construction, maybe replacing some older types?
Exactly. It's a concrete example, no pun intended, of that sustainability drive.
Uh-huh, right. Okay, what else is trending?
Another big one is digital printing. As those technologies get better and more widespread,
Yeah.
there's a growing need for really high-performance inorganic pigments for things like packaging, textiles, signs. You need pigments that give you a huge color range, accuracy, consistency, really vivid colors, and importantly, colors that last.
So better printing tech demands better pigments.
Precisely. And inorganic pigments, with their natural durability and fade resistance, are really well suited to meet those demands,
Yeah.
especially for printing on different kinds of materials.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got the size, the drivers, the challenges, the trends. What about the companies? Who are the big players in this space?
The report calls out a few key competitors. Two really prominent ones are BASF SE and DuPont de Nemours Inc.
Okay, huge chemical companies.
Right. Their influence comes from big investments in R&D, innovation, and also pushing those sustainable solutions we talked about.
Any recent moves mentioned, like deals or new products?
Yeah, a couple of examples. There was a distribution agreement inked in March 2023 between Sudarshan Chemical Industries and BASF for Europe.
Uh-huh.
And Hubach launched some new products at the European Coating Show, ECS,
Yeah,
back in February 2023. So yeah, there's definitely activity.
good. Shows the market's not static. Who else is on the list of top companies besides BASF and DuPont?
There's a few others mentioned in no particular order. Cathay Industries, D-Seal Corporation, Ferro Corporation, which is now Prince International Corporation,
Okay.
Hunan Saint-Win Pigment Co., Ltd., Carones Worldwide Inc., Lanxess AG, and Venator Materials PLC. So a mix of big diversified players and more specialized pigment makers.
Got it. A competitive field. Let's circle back quickly to the regions. We know North America led in 2025, APAC's growing fastest. Can we get a bit more insight into why?
Sure. North America's lead, that 30+% share, it's largely down to, well, established infrastructure and strong industrial activity.
Right.
The U.S. is the main engine there, especially with demand from automotive and construction needing those high-performance pigments. The report actually gives specific numbers for Canada and Mexico, too, showing their part.
And the fuel behind APAC's 8.8% growth.
Like we touched on, it's really that rapid expansion in their auto and construction sectors.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, huge urbanization, lots of infrastructure spending, and just a booming manufacturing base, especially thinking about China and India. Again, the report breaks down market sizes and growth for specific countries there, too.
Yeah, that rapid development really drives demand for color in, well, everything. What about the other regions? Europe, South America, Middle East, Africa? Any quick highlights?
The report does detail them. It gives the 2025 market sizes, the projected key GRs.
Mm.
It breaks down Europe into, UK, Germany, France, and so on. Same for South America, Brazil, Argentina, Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Africa, Nigeria, South Africa. You get a really granular view of where things stand and are heading globally.
That detail is super helpful for understanding the nuances. Okay, let's look inside the market now. The report breaks it down by product, form, and application. What about product type? Which pigments are most dominant?
According to the report, it's likely iron and iron oxide pigments that hold the biggest share,
Okay, the iron oxides, why them?
mostly driven by demand from paints and coatings. They offer, good quality, purity, resistance properties. Plus, they're used a lot in construction. Think bricks, colored concrete again.
Right, those classic reds, browns, yellows, though they do more now, right? What about the fastest growing product segment?
That would be chromium pigments.
Chromium. Interesting. Aren't there some environmental concerns there?
There are, yeah. Regulatory scrutiny around certain chromium compounds is a factor. But despite that, they're the fastest growing segment
What's that?
because they offer this amazing color range, great durability, they handle heat really well. So demand is up, especially in construction and automotive. Though research is ongoing to find safer alternatives within that category too.
Fascinating trade-off there between performance and regulation.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the form? Liquid powder, which leads.
The report says the CAGR segment, basically water-based liquid forms, holds the largest share currently.
And why is that?
It ties back to that eco-friendly trend. More demand for water-based paints, inks, coatings to cut down on VOCs, volatile organic compounds.
The environmental angle again. What about powders?
The powder segment is growing fast. Powders offer really high pigment concentration. They last a long time on the shelf. They're super versatile.
Right.
Used in industrial coatings, plastics, ceramics, and of course construction materials like concrete and tiles.
Versatility and stability, key advantages for industry. Okay, last breakdown.
Yeah.
Application. Where are these pigments actually being used the most?
Paints and coatings takes the biggest slice of the pie here.
Makes sense.
It's fueled by consumer spending, home renovations, decorating, car customization, plus those environmental regulations we keep mentioning often favor inorganic pigments in coatings because they're stable and durable.
So our houses and cars are big drivers. What else? Any other applications really growing?
Yes, textile printing is highlighted as expanding rapidly. The textile industry wants brilliant, long-lasting colors, right?
Yeah, fade resistance is key.
Exactly. Inorganic pigments offer great light fastness. They stand up to washing. Plus, again, the shift to eco-friendly pigments in textiles and the rise of digital textile printing are boosting this segment.
So from the roads we drive on to the shirts we wear, these pigments are pretty much everywhere.
They really are a vital and growing part of the material world.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful, a really good deep dive. Let's try and sum up the key points. What should you, our listener, really take away from all this?
Okay, first off, just recognize this is a big market, over $6 billion US in 2025, heading towards over $10 billion by 2033. That's substantial.
Right.
Second, a lot of that growth comes from construction, especially that colored concrete trend and this wider push for sustainable materials. Third, regionally, North America leads for now, but keep your eye on Asia Pacific. That's where the fastest growth is happening.
Scott.
And finally, within the market, iron oxides are the main product type. Aqueous or water-based is the dominant form, and paints and coatings is the biggest application, although textile printing is growing really fast too.
Excellent summary. A large, growing market driven by construction and sustainability with interesting regional shifts and clear segment leaders. Okay, here's a final thought to leave you with. How does this constant demand for color, for durability, in just the basic stuff around us, how does that push innovation in big global industries and technologies? And what might the next big thing in pigment tech look like as these trends keep going?
Yeah, that's a great question to ponder. If this has sparked your interest, definitely dig into some market reports or industry news. There's always more to uncover in such a dynamic sector.